Guys, I might have been wrong, and I'm not afraid to admit it if I am. But we've got new information from the FCC filings about this mystery Nintendo accessory device, and it might refute what I've said before about the device being on the body of the player, but it might not. And it gives us some interesting new details that might tell us the size, shape, and purpose of the device. So, without further ado, let's dive in. If you like this type of stuff, please give us a like, a subscribe, check out our bi weekly gaming podcast at Remote Play Gaming or RPGP. And so, let's pull up this FCC filing as we've got some new to us documents on here. So, you guys made a lot of comments, speculation on both Reddit and YouTube, and read through a lot of them, and they had me thinking. And I was like, you know what? Let me go back and read everything and just make sure I really have a clear picture of the testing that was done, and maybe the device is actually used for something other than what we thought. So I went to do that and I Googled it, right? Instead of going back to the direct link I had, which I think at the time I grabbed through The Verge or IGN or something, because they were all referencing the same page on the FCC. And that page led specifically to the Wi Fi chip testing, right? And we talked about in our video, there's actually other reports that were referenced and we couldn't find them. Well, when I Googled, I got to this FCCID.io, which is kind of like a crawler that grabs everything, and it actually shows that there is two pieces of this application, right? So there's two exhibits, and one of them is for the Wi-Fi part, and one is for that 24 gigahertz radar or tracking sensor part. And we hadn't seen these documents yet. So these are actually out here and we can see them. A lot of the documents are very similar, right? So power distribution reports, test report, and then here's all your, again, your justifications and confidentiality letters and attestations that UL Japan is allowed to test on behalf of Nintendo and so on. So before we dive into the actual documents, I just wanted to scroll down here, and this is the actual submission to the FCC, and it gives us just a little bit of detail that I thought was worth pulling up. The date is still the same on the confidentiality, of course, but equipment class, right? So digital transmission system, and this is noted as a wireless device, a wireless device. So keep that in mind for a second. We'll check one more thing here. Is the equipment a composite device subject to more equipment authorization? So don't get confused on this. What this means is one of two things: that there's multiple radios or transmitters inside this singular device of plastic, and that you have to test each one of them, which obviously they have, or that this device plugs into another device. And they're both subject to testing and filing, right? So this is totally normal. The Switch also has this because it obviously has like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi in it. Everything's got to be tested. Standard stuff here that it tells you, hey, end users have got to be notified. Usually this is in those little pamphlets or somewhere in the digital manual that, hey, this is the risk if you come too close to this, yada, yada, yada. Hopefully you don't get some weird disease and grow multiple arms. So, wireless device, why did I highlight this? Let's pull up the other submission, which will be the Switch. So we're going to switch screens here really quick, see what I did there, and pull up the submission for the Switch. Now, for the Switch, you can see there are a ton of applications under this. You got 6 different pieces, tons of documents. We're not going to look at those just at the moment. But we are going to come down here to this submission and note that this, I already had it highlighted, is a game console. A game console. Now, don't worry about spread spectrum transmitter. That happens with Bluetooth. It's a type of way that it communicates and avoids collisions so that you don't mix signals with other devices. But this is a game console, while the other device was a wireless device. Now, could they be just being generic or bland? Maybe, but usually with the FCC, if you're going to sell this product in the US, you have to be very specific to a point, obviously, about what it is. So I don't believe that this device is a new console of any kind, right? This is not the Switch 2. This is not Switch 2 Mini. This is not the GameCube Mini, if that was going to be a thing. Strictly believe it's some type of accessory, either for the Switch 2, right, for a multitude of games or for the system, or for a specific game. So think about the Pokemon Go Plus. That device also has a filing, and that is for one specific game. So, one thing I did want to pull up here while we were in the Switch, you can obviously see that there is some SAR testing here that they did because the device was going to be in the hands and kind of up in your face. It's portable. So that is worth noting that it was going to do that. But the test setup photos, I believe, were the interesting ones. So if you wanted to get a visual, because we had a block diagram before, kind of like a little squares drawing of how the devices were tested for this new accessory, because the actual pictures are confidential, obviously. This is what it actually looks like, right? Um, at least for this part of the testing. Now, for the actual SAR testing, it's put against like one of those fake bodies of dielectric liquid. But there you can see the switch. They actually have some headphones plugged in, which is interesting, with the AC adapter, and then the Lizen. And this is to make sure that there's no leakage of power that goes back onto the grid, if you will, back through the power cable. They call it conducted. So you can just we'll scroll down. There's some more photos here, and so you can see similar testing, right? And they actually use the dielectric foam here instead of a liquid body, which I thought was interesting. And they call this worst case scenario. So just some interesting photos to give you a visualization of what does this test actually look like. They're in an anechoic chamber or a semi-anechoic chamber. They put this at the edge of the table, and then they've got that's a horn antenna there in the back on that blue and silver tower, and they're going to detect, how strong does this transmit. Is it dangerous? Is it doing what you say it does, or are you trying to sneak one past us and it could be harmful to people? So, what new information did we get out of the actual documents? And let's dive into that. So I've actually pulled these down. So there's three key new documents, and then there's two FCC regulations I want to reference to you that'll kind of support what's going on, right? So the two documents is actually there's three documents, but they're actually two. One is very large and split into two files. It's a 94 pager. This first one is 37. So you can see 24 gigahertz sensor part. So not that Wi-Fi piece. This is the actual, that kind of radar millimeter wave piece that's going to detect movement and precise location, angular velocity as well. And so I just want to point out one or two things in here. First one, photographs of test setup. So you can imagine when I found this document, I scrolled through here and I said, photographs of test setup, go. I scrolled all the way to the end. Those pages were redacted. I even got Adobe Pro and I tried to unlock the document and reveal hidden pages, and couldn't get it done, unfortunately. So we'll have to wait on that. But man, that would have been a moneymaker there if we could all see what the device actually looks like. If we go down, something else that was interesting, the dates. So in the Wi-Fi piece, the other video we did, you'll notice that the dates were not this early. So they actually got this device, at least for the 24 gigahertz testing, much earlier. And they did the testing December through April, and then they actually do the submission later, right? It's a long process, and you're in queue, and the test house will go back to Nintendo and say, hey, can you help us get this working? Nintendo might even send out an engineer to drive the device, if you will, and make sure everything's working right. They might have to do a software update like, hey, it was kind of out of scope here. Can you fix that? They get a firmware update for the Wi-Fi chip or for the 24 gigahertz chip. So it's definitely a process that goes for a long time. So DC 5 volt, we're going to talk about this battery thing here in a second. Nothing's different here. Patch antenna, an IFA or a PIFA antenna. If we go down, see our battery bit here. Okay, so again, same type of test setup, right? Wall outlet to the device. Set switch charger. There's that table we talked about, right? So it's on the edge of the table with the AC adapter. Equipment under test is at your EUT. Um, no new really information here about what kind of testing they're doing. Um, you'll see that they put out the antenna over there, and sometimes it's rotated to make sure they get a full spectrum of what's going on with the radiation. Sometimes it's not rotated. Generally, this is just all the testing and the math, right, of what's going on. So let's jump over to the next document. So this is our 94 pager. You'll notice the test report number. This is what we referenced in the last video, that there's some other documents, right, for this piece. And again, 24 gigahertz sensor part. This one actually shows you that SAR testing, like how much wattage is the human body going to be exposed to. So 0.41 watts per meter squared. So, that surface area. And then they give you an exposure ratio, which they have to combine with the Wi-Fi part. And that just really means, like, how much are you getting blasted with, and is it safe for the body? Because you got to remember, there's all sorts of transmissions everywhere. There's light, everything. It's all radio frequencies, and we just have to make sure that people are safe, right? So again, photographs of test setup. It wasn't in here, unfortunately. Same type of test dates, same thing where it's an engineering prototype, but it's going to be equivalent to what they mass produce, right? So they just kind of send it over. Okay, DC 5-volt option battery, body worn accessory. So I want to reiterate on this piece, and this is where we might be wrong. I'm happy to admit that if I'm wrong. I'm not somebody that's going to double down on this stuff just to say I was right or that I'm some type of expert. I've done this for 10 years. I've done this type of testing. I've done it on little hearing aids. I've done it on medical devices. I've done it on a car. You can drive a car into these anechoic chambers. So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, but I'm happy to admit when I am wrong. So DC 5 volts. There was people in the comments that I don't think there's a battery. It says NA. They plugged it in with the switch power cable. You're 100% right. They did do that. I'm not convinced that there's not a rechargeable battery in this. Usually, this option battery is like in the Pokemon Go Plus. You can take the back off and remove the battery, right? I really think, again, if this is going to be like a body sensor, and they had to do SAR testing, that signal absorption rate for near the body, then why would it be plugged in? And maybe it is plugged in sometimes, but maybe it's unplugged for other purposes. Body worn accessory. This is something that's going to intentionally be on the body all the time. A Fitbit, a polar heart rate strap. The Switch or the controllers would not be a body worn accessory, but you can see that the Switch had some SAR testing, because if you're going to play it up by your face, or maybe you're laying in bed like I do and you rest it on your chest, then it's going to be near the body, right? They have to kind of account for the worst case scenario. So we'll touch more on this in the speculation of what this device actually does, but that's where I'm kind of standing right now. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I still think that this is going to be near the body, potentially on the body, maybe not, based on the size, which we're going to get into. Okay, this piece, super, super critical and new information. So they have to say what regulations did you test against that are relevant to this device, right? And so in the Wi-Fi piece, this was not checked. The boxes that were checked here, there was different ones checked. The key here is two things: portable devices. Okay, portable devices. If the thing was plugged into the wall all the time, is it a portable device? I don't think so, right? If it's plugged into the wall and it stays there on the desk or on the counter on the table, is it portable? No. Wouldn't a portable device have a battery? You would think, right? All portable device, you got to have a battery to work. Okay, so that's part one. Part two, SAR evaluation. So again, signal absorption rate. So how much is going to be absorbed by the body for UMPC mini tablet devices? And don't quote me. I think it's in another doc we'll look at. I think UMPC is like ultra mini PC, personal computer, right? But essentially, this is like mini tablet devices. So when you think mini tablet, you think phone, maybe iPad, the Switch, right? Maybe a Steam Deck would count, that type of thing. Okay, so we've got that, and then down here is just the other specifications were just that assessment of power density. So that's the PD number that you see a lot. Exposure to in close proximity to the head and body. So we've got that it's a portable device. We've got that it's a UMPC. That's important. We're gonna define that in a second. And we've got that it's going to be close to the human head or body. And we know right now that it's not the head, at least because we haven't seen any head testing. We've only seen body testing. Okay. So What happens? We're going to come back to this doc in a second, but really quick, second half of that document, 65 to 94 pages. This is all just irrelevant calibration data. So they have to prove that they calibrated the tools and the robot arm and all that stuff without any issues. So I'm going to close that. So mobile and portable device RF exposure. This is going to talk about UMPCs. This is straight from the FCC. It's slightly older document, but it talks about the regulations for what you have to test and what things are defined as. So this is talking about SAR testing for tablet PCs. So ultra mobile PC UMPC. It's like a tablet or a handheld. Sorry for body worn accessory may be applicable, right? And then if we go down a little bit, so we are not a cabled device. And I think, give me one sec. I think we actually wanted to be back up here. So here we go. It was actually on that page. For some mid-sized tablet type devices, user could likely hold it closer to or resting against rather than further from the body. Okay. So we know this device is portable. It's subject to UMPC testing, so it's some type of tablet or handheld device, and it could be closer to the body or resting against the body rather than further away from the body. Okay, this is all defined by the FCC. This is not me making this up. You saw it in the documents and the submission. So let's jump over here. This is FCC, and what does it mean to test, or what are the procedures for testing these UMPC mini tablet devices? Okay, so this is where we get into the definition a little bit of what a device is in this category, and we're going to see something interesting here. So, certain small handheld tablets and devices of similar form factors that are designed primarily for interactive handheld use next to or near the body of the users. So, this device is, again, kind of what we already said, going to be interacted with somehow by the user and be held against or near the body. Okay. The test procedures are applicable to devices with a display, an overall diagonal dimension of less than or equal to 20 centimeters or around 7.9 inches. These devices are typically operated like a mini tablet and are usually designed with certain features and characteristics. Okay, so what did we just learn? This thing likely has a screen. Now, I'm going to speculate later that maybe it has just a glass front, but maybe it has a full LCD screen. Maybe it has a Switch-esque screen, or maybe like a kind of like a dummy screen, as I would call it. So think about like a screen on like a Fitbit or something that's not full color, if you will. It's just displaying certain things like heart rate or movement or something like that. Last piece of interesting bits in this document, and this is going to go back to the other one and what the size of the device is. These mini tablet devices must be tested for SAR on all surfaces and side edges with a antenna located equal to or less than 25 millimeters from the edge. And then there must be 5 millimeters separation from the phantom device, which is the body simulator, right? So, what this means in layman's terms, if the antenna is not too close to the edge, you don't have to test, right? If it's close to the edge of the device, you do have to test. Okay, so now we know all this stuff, right? Let's go back to our testing of the 24 gigahertz part. Let's skip all the crazy math about how SAR is and power density and all that is calculated. Similar test results here from before, right? They reported the watts per meter squared and the watts per kilogram for the wireless, and then what the total exposure ratio is, and if it's at risk for the user or not. And then, by the way, if anybody is also an engineer and you work with wireless radios, if you know the software version as Diag version M2 or X4 was the wireless, if you know what chip that is, please put it in the comments because that could tell us what type of chip and company is inside of this accessory or device. I'm not familiar with those ones. Um, so, all right, here we go. So we'll just start right here, and then we'll go back up to the measurements. So position is on the left. Test is required or not required on the right. So the front of the device, testing is required. The rear of the device, testing is not required, and so on and so forth, which you can see here. So again, based on that definition from the FCC that we just looked at in the other document, If the testing on the front is required, that means the antenna is close to the front and is less than 25 millimeters away from the front edge or screen of the device. The rear is not required, so the antenna is not near the rear of the device, right? It's near the front. And so that kind of defines, where is this antenna within the device? Same for the wireless one. We can make a determination on that for the Wi-Fi. So again, here you can see front, top, and then they did a tilt too. So 0 millimeter separation distance. Again, that's separation from the phantom. And you can see test is evaluated using a virtual flat phantom, thickness of 2 millimeters taken into account. And then the separation distance is 0. So they put it right up against, right? Same thing they did with the wireless, the Wi-Fi 2.4 gigahertz one. They put it right up against the body. Worst case scenario. So this device is going to be either very close to you or right on you, right? Right on you or very close to you. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be on you all the time, just that at any given point in time, it can be on you or close to you, given its use case. Okay. All right. Here's the fun stuff, and probably why you clicked on this video if you looked at the thumbnail. Distance. We have the actual distance in millimeters that this antenna is from each edge of the device. So if we do some math, we can figure out that the antenna is so far from the left, so far from the right. You add those together, that gives us the width of the device. Same thing for front to back, top to bottom. So now we could make a 3D model, right? So that's exactly what I did. And we are going to pull up the full screen of that, and you guys will be able to see it. So give me one sec here. Switch the camera. All right, guys, here it is. Yeah, yeah. Ignore the rainbow colors. That's just kind of what Creo decided to give me. I'm going to move my mic out of the way just a little bit. So you'll notice that it's oddly cube shaped. Um, there's a little bit of color coding here. You can see that depressed area on the bottom. I kind of tried to put in, and I did the 4.5 point font. I put it in there. It does fit. It looks pretty normal. So the first thing you're going to notice is it's cube shaped, right? Like it's pretty big. Here's a banana for scale, obligatory. I don't have a cat as I'm traveling, but it's a good size, right? Definitely can be hand held. I have pretty average size hands, so two hands. Nothing says that these edges can't be beveled or that it doesn't come up to maybe like a pyramid shape or something. But as far as we know, based on the drawing and the dimensions from the antenna testing, this is the size of the device. And maybe not the final shape, but somewhat close, right? We know the base at least is this shape from the testing with a depressed area on the bottom. So color coding, what matters here? The yellow pieces, these are the where the antennas are located. Now they are back in the depth a little bit, but this one's pretty close to the front. So this is your 24 gigahertz sensor. I actually have some measurements written down. So it's 7 millimeters from the front and 76 millimeters from the back. And that's a total of 83.7 millimeters, or around, like 8 centimeters, if you will, give or take. This is where the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi antenna, and that is again near the front. So my front measurement, 7 millimeters from the front and 75 millimeters from the rear. So it's actually probably like like right here, not up near the front of this, like flush to the front. Top to bottom measurements are roughly 90 millimeters or 9 centimeters, and so are the width. I found that in the 24 gigahertz testing documents, when you add those measurements together, the height and width are the same, so 90.6 millimeters. Now that's give or take, right? There's plastic housing. Again, they can bevel this stuff and make this look cool or whatever. It's possible that stuff slides onto this like a Joy-Con and a switch attachment. We really don't know at this point. Now, these colors don't really matter. It's just the clay that I had, but the green does. So the green is the front of the device, and it's presumably a screen or maybe a piece of glass, right? So we know from the FCC documents and testing and the requirements and the regulations that this is a UMPC device, a portable device. And that UMPC devices have screens. It's defined in there that has a screen under a certain size. Now, is this a full LCD screen like a Switch? Maybe not. Is this a Fitbit style black and white e-ink screen? Maybe. We don't know. Nintendo gonna Nintendo, right? Like they do whatever they want. We're all gonna think this is some super awesome device, and it's gonna come out, and it's the new Nintendo alarm clock, right? I mean, we really don't know. Um, Something that I noticed on the block diagram document is that the AC power was plugged into the back. It is possible it's plugged up under the bottom. A lot of depressed areas on electronic devices will have kind of like the FCC marking and then like a USB-C port, maybe a reset button or whatever is relevant to the device, or it could be plugged into the back of the device. Again, the battery thing. I appreciate the speculation in the comments. I love it. Keep it coming. But it's a portable device as defined by the filing and by the FCC. So I don't think this sits plugged into the wall all the time. I think that it has an internal battery, not a removable battery, like a Pokemon Go Plus would. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that unscrews and you can put batteries in there. Um, yeah, so this device, I just have a hard time seeing this body worn, right? Like, I don't think that's gonna work. Maybe it gets strapped to your chest like Iron Man. As my co-host Evan pointed out, we can do the new Iron Man simulator with this. Um, I really think if we want to speculate about what this could do, at first when I got the dimensions, like, oh, it's a GameCube Mini, and then I read the portable device thing. So I think that's out the window, right? As much as that would be awesome. We thought it was a fitness peripheral before. Maybe it still is. So maybe things attached to this. Maybe there's attachments, and you swing it, you move it in and out, and that sensor says how fast you're moving, the angular velocity, how hard are you working, how many calories are you burning. That's still a possibility. You plug it in and charge it when you're done. Is this for AR tracking? Another thing I immediately thought once I saw the dimensions and the depressed area was the HTC Vive base station. So if you've ever seen that or owned a VR headset that uses the base stations for tracking, they are cube shaped. They do have sensors in the front. Now, granted, those were, I believe, mostly IR sensors, but that can make a lot of sense, right? You get one, two, three of these. Um, it is possible that you could put it near your body, right? So you set these up, and as you're moving around in the space, you could come close to this. So maybe that's why they were conservative and did the testing for the SAR body testing. Um, it has the wireless transmitter for 2.4 gigahertz, so it could communicate directly back to the Switch 2 or a base station, maybe. And then it would track your movement and angular velocity, and put that in the game for AR. Right? We know it's not going near the head. Is there a headpiece yet to come? Very possible. We could see another FCC filing within the next 6 months of that confidentiality agreement, as they would have multiple devices. Right? So maybe AR tracking. Um, Controller? Is this a controller for the Switch too? Possibly. It's not a console, right? It wasn't described as a console in the filing. It's not for sale or won't be for sale as a game console, according to Nintendo and the FCC. So, is this some type of controller? Maybe. Again, all of us think probably Joy-Con you attach to the side. I mean, that doesn't seem very comfortable to me. So I don't know if that would be it. The cube shape is just really throwing me off. I have to believe that these are beveled somehow, and has a little bit more of a unique design. Maybe it's octagon or hexagon on top, and then it's just round in the bottom. Not really sure. So you know, the comments and the stuff on Reddit and YouTube, you guys were incredible. There was awesome speculation. It really made myself, my co-host Evan and Curtis think about this and what could this be for. So I'd love to hear more from you guys and girls. Like, what is this? What could it be? We know some stuff now, right? So we know that it's a portable device. As defined by the FCC, it likely has a screen, this green piece on the front. We know that it's maybe cube shaped, although it could be, slightly different than this. We know it's pretty big, so like a 9 centimeter by 9 centimeter, 8 centimeter deep ish. Um, we know that it's going to be close to the body at some point. Is that just because it's in the hands and you're going to hold it close to you? We know that it has motion tracking, angular velocity or speed tracking in it. We know that it has a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi chip. It's interesting that it's not dual band or anything like that. Maybe they're trying to keep the power down. I think this is Wi-Fi direct, directly to switch to or some other device to transmit data. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much what we know at this point. And we know that with it being a portable device, it probably has a battery in it. And yeah, I'm really puzzled by this, but I think that if we all put our heads together, we can figure this out. So we'll probably post some screenshots in the comments on YouTube and Reddit just of this device and the banana together. I'll give you that one more time. So this is kind of a big banana. This is definitely an American banana. I got this at Target. I'm normally living in Australia, and the bananas I think are a little bit smaller, maybe less chemicals. I'm not sure, but that's that. And hey, I mean, I crushed it on this clay, right? It looks incredible, just like the like the drawing that came with this. I actually think it looks a little more like these guys. No, that those are even better. I'm a terrible artist, but now you have an idea. And if you guys like this, please make sure you like or subscribe. And if you didn't catch the first video, we'll link it right here, and we'll have our channel as well if you want to check out our other content. Other than that, keep speculating, keep F5ing and refreshing the page and seeing if anything new gets posted, and keep gaming, guys.